Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Devongunsmith Diaries. This is a bit of a funny one. This is a 24-hour job, so it's not a complete video. It's Colt Gold Cup long barrel pistol for target shooting, and it came in with problems with the sight mount. So this came to me in some haste to be repaired. We're halfway through the job here, and the following footage is the transcripts of the video communication between me. It'll be a one-sided conversation for you guys. So as I progress through the job, within a 24-hour period, I rapidly asked the customer questions for guidance. So here's the original that was bonded to the top of the slide, something like that, but there. It got tore out, the screws were damaged, the diopter flew off and smacked somebody in the mouth, and the owner of this gun had to endure quite a bit of ridicule from the club members and the very good-hearted gentleman who received diopter sight to the mouth. So, dangerous but funny also. You'll notice the surface area of this one is greater. It's an American import, and this is after I've glued it in place, so I'll be assembling this at some point, hopefully on camera. The nature of these kind of jobs is actually they're quite good, they're quite nice, but unfortunately I'm unable to film it because it's a rapid turnaround job. Let's get into it, guys. If you enjoy the content, don't forget, like, subscribe and click the notification bell. Okay, so after an hour of soaking in solvent and a judicious clamping on the side, and then a whack with a piece of wood and a hammer, and then some further soaking off here, you can see that it's taken a little bit of the finish with it. And if we align that with that, there will be a small amount of finish showing in the white, so to speak. Some of that may be covered by that. The other additional thing is that the aftermarket dovetail is oversized, so I'm assuming that you'll want me to take this part down a little bit rather than change that dimension there, in terms of keeping the original and using and adapting the aftermarket. What are your thoughts, Peter? So that's ready, and going to offer that up, and the screws don't even reach, not by a mile, so I'm going to have to sort out the screws next, and so it goes on. The life of a gunsmith, eh? Who'd want it? You are right. It was the first thing I did, was checking your box. And yeah, we've got some threads anyway that fit, so I can kind of mock it up for you. This is the only blemish there and there that you're going to see. And is it really worth Cerakoting for that? I'd rather suggest saving your money myself, but that's just me. Yes, so there's a small amount of slack. I'm not going to adjust these lengths of these, but there's a bit of play on there. But if I just mock it up with that as a guide, so I could actually glue that in place using those as guides, and then simply clamping that there, you will get such a minor amount of blemish, it's hardly worth considering. But it's up to you. Right, Peter, so the shim needed is one nut and one washer. If I can find some Delrin, I'll make some tubes, some upstand tubes inside here, but if I can show you, get the light, and you can see I haven't cleaned my bench since I last spoke to you. Right, focus. So one washer and one nut provides the correct amount of shimming inside both sides to give you parallel mount here. And I can prove that by checking here and here. And there's not much, there's about 2.2 of a millimetre difference. So with the movement and slapping the slide, it's probably sufficient. So that's what I'm going to use to hold it in place. When I stick it down with glue, because it's so close here, look, as you can see, focal point, there you go, it's just that tiny blemish there. So I'm going to set up with some glue. I'm going to use the clear, so I'm going to set that up, unless you want me to make up some Delrin tubes there. I can set these in place with super glue so they don't flop out, and you'll be able to swap out the screws on the top. The depth on these screws, they may, when you get them, I think the ones you've ordered are 12mm. You need to take a little bit off the end of the screw to get it to fit properly, but this will be aligned. Await your instructions. Right, so one last video before the glue up. So they're now captive by being glued together, and they fit freely inside there, and your 3mm screws, M3s, drop straight through those screws. They're not interfered. That's like an M4 or something nut, so there's no interference there when you screw those through. Okay, that's at least the theory anyway. Now in practice trying to demonstrate it, it's a different story, isn't it? There you go, so it just spins in nicely, freely. Okay, so the thread on the nuts it's got clearance. So that's how it's going to be. This slides in nicely. So the original job, the original parts are not actually interfered with at all. I'll obviously set that like that, and it does sit nicely on there. This is your own private YouTube. There's not enough content in this particular job to make it a YouTube content specific, so I haven't got all the parts, and you have to do them a little bit more polished than what I'm doing here, and you'll obviously have a favourable outcome and it all works fine. Of course, we're not going to see those other little screws until Tuesday. So right, so this is where you check it now for movement. There will be a bit of movement there, but it's key to check this. 27.9. Just, that's not tightened down enough yet. Make it the same both sides. There's a little bit of play there, so we've got, that'll be the glue. So this is my practice run for the glue, and there it is, job done. So that's how it's prepared. Okay, so halfway through the video I actually start the video. Nuts, doesn't make sense, but it is the way it is right now because of the timings and stuff. This is a 24-hour job and I've got the worst done, so it's not been filmed. That was the original that was planted on here, and as you can see there's still some residual tear out and whatnot there from the epoxy, and there was some equivalent tear out which you would have seen on the communication videos, so there's a small amount there. As it is, I don't have any aluminium black and it's a quick turnaround job, so it's one of those situations where you simply make the best of a bad job. That one's redundant, but it's going back in his spares box anyway. Okay, as you can see, this is a halfway through the job video. So the diopter now fits fine, and just checking for alignment, etc. So it's all good. As you can see, I've got half finished jobs here because this one came right in the middle of the job, and cash flow is king. So we can't turn work away, unfortunately, in this present climate. So we need to keep customers happy. Okay. For some reason, that's just gripping a bit there. There we go. Right, good. So that's the epoxy job. And if you recall in the excerpts to my customer, Peter, I used hurriedly spaced out nut, oversized nut and washer just to create the offset there. And this is the reality. Sometimes you've got to do a job so quickly you haven't got time to source materials. You have to put something to hand. So it's a sort of hearty bodge. The marks are minimal, so it's ready for assembly now. But I'm first going to clear off the bench. So if I could do it properly like I would normally do. So all the cleaning's done, post is prepared, the shimming, which is to a nut and a washer with a little bit of super glue, is prepared, and a quick assemblage and check, dry check. Yep, that's good. So that will give me the correct measurements. Let's turn this on first. Just quickly check those measurements across the front and back. They're both the same. So it sits nicely. Okay, so now dollop epoxy resin. This is always wasted. Never use all of it ever. There you go. A trusty butter knife as a spatula. Doesn't really matter at this point, it's just to get it to glue together. I don't even know if this is on the camera, is it? Kind of, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to need a couple of washers. I don't think I've got any. I have to be quick. Gonna have to be quick. Just need a couple of washers. They're probably on the table, I just can't see them. Ready to screw this in place. Okay, so judicious application of said resin. Bear in mind, everything goes on has to be squeezed back out again. Quickly screw this down to hold it in place so it's in alignment. This is only in alignment, doesn't need to be screwed down tight. As it's going straight in the clamp. There we go. Only just on. Right, first things first, you've got to wipe off all the excess super fast. get that done as quickly as possible. And wipe down with acetone ASAP. This is very similar to bedding in rifles. You use the same principles. No excess to be left. And while it is still plastic, you can do that. Acetone and more tissues needed. Right, next. Let's get on with this quickly. Now, you don't put an excess of acetone, only what you need to remove the exterior. Obviously clean up as you go, so you're not reapplying epoxy. You might know, I've done this once or twice before, several hundreds of times. Not on this job, I mean generally. Right, so again, you get caught in the trap of folding and unfolding. Find a new place to do it. This is acetone that I've used in a previous cleanup, so it's a bit mucky, but it's only to remove the excess. Oh, you don't want any problems. There will be a little bit of squeeze out when I pop it in the clamp. Obviously lead clams. I say obviously, you may not know that's what we use. Just so it doesn't mark, pop it in there. And set it up correctly so that the jaws just clamp that there. Something like that. Let's just check there. Looks okay. There we go. Pinch that up. There will be a small amount of squeeze out, not enough to worry about. At least 24 hours. And come back and finish the gun assembly. Here's a little extra for credit. And this is using dummy rounds. They're not real rounds, they're just gunsmith testing rounds. So it means I can manually action the gun, check the firing pin and all that good stuff. So it allows me, obviously this has got a safety feature here, and turn the hammer off, right. Okay, so good. Rack it, eject. Not so dynamic as the real thing. Okay, so in the English law, this is not actually a moderator. This is just made to look like one because it's actually a barrel sleeve. It doesn't actually moderate any sound whatsoever. All it does is superficial to make the compliance with the 300mm long barrel on pistols, because we have these silly restrictions on pistols in the UK. Okay, so that's it back together again. And it's just a matter of popping that on. We do need to get some screws. So I can't actually show you that fitted, but it does actually pop in there. It needs setting up and the screw depth fixing so that it doesn't pop off the mount. So that wasn't a proper video, but it was just a bit of interest, so I've popped it on the video to keep you guys happy. Okay, till next time, see you guys.